Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Cannoli Drop, your favorite Gundam podcast. My name is Isaac.
And my name is Brian. And today we are concluding our review of Iron Blooded Orphans with Season 2.
Oh, boy. All right, Brian, as our listeners, I'm sure remember, I started watching this series a little bit before you. You recently finished. What were your thoughts now that it's over? Just the first thing that pops in your head.
The first thing that pops into my head is just disappointed love, I guess. I don't know what to say after that ending.
We're trying to create new compound nouns for Brian. You know what? I'll just say this before we dive in everything. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed how different it was. Yes, I agree that the ending's bittersweet, but man, what a ride. What a uniquely written ride. And, thank you to all the creators of this self-contained 2-season Gundam series. It was really amazing. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the first season, and then I think that enjoyment really carried over to the second season in terms of the pacing. It was really well paced. There was always something happening that kept you wanting to watch the next episode. That said, I feel like maybe, whereas the first season, like we talked about before, was, what did we call it, like a glorified video game escort mission where it was very focused.
Yeah.
And you had one singular task pretty much the whole time, which was protect Kudelia. Mm-hmm. This time I feel like maybe there was not quite as clear of a path. I don't know. I felt a little less focused, but
a bit, yeah.
Certainly still suspenseful though. I guess if we start with story, there was like the Earth, what I'll call the Earth arc, which was like the beginning, and that was mainly focusing on like the Earth Gallarhorn with the character Aston and Takaki. That was like, I don't know what, 6-8 episodes, so about a third of the second season. And that was really fun to watch, and it was good. Those were good characters. We got to know Aston, and then he got killed, and a lot of other people got killed, and then that was kind of it. So looking back, I'm not really sure what the point of that Earth arc was. Like, I don't know. Looking back, do you feel like that was needed?
I wouldn't say it was so much needed, but I felt like it worked in the overall story. Or I guess we're going to dive into the story now. I feel like if, as you said, for our gamer fans in the listener audience, season 1 was an escort mission for Kudelia, getting her from Mars to Earth. This was very much a almost Shakespearean tragedy of how inept this organization Tekkadan and the child soldiers in it, how incompetent they were when they actually had power, and when they were actually up with the big fish,
Yep.
Because everything falls apart very quickly.
Yeah, they tried to swim in a pond that was way too big for them, I think.
Yeah, there's the shark showed up and that was about it. I agree. Maybe the weakest part of the story was more towards the beginning of the season. It really just ramps up as the season goes on, and I was really happy with, all the fun incidents we had where they fight the mobile armor. I've never seen a mobile armor look like that. This was a very new and fresh take on what mobile armors are supposed to look like. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I would call that the second part of the story, or the second arc.
Yeah.
The whole mobile armor Calamity War history kind of thing, and that started when they found the buried Gundam and the mobile armor drone, also called the Pluma, on Mars, which I thought was a great way to do a reveal. It plays with that whole history of the Calamity War was 300 years ago. These Gundam frames are really old. And then once we find out the origin of the Gundams, that they were created as a way to destroy mobile armors, that really flips the whole mobile suit versus mobile armor idea on its head, because in all of the other series, for the most part, mobile suits have come first, and mobile armors have always been developed after as a way to create a weapon somehow greater than a mobile suit.
Yeah, I mean, if they ever do expand this series, we've discussed this before, that there's no reason why they should avoid a Calamity War series, even if it's on like manga or something like that. It'd be really interesting to see just how bad this war clearly was.
Yeah.
So yeah, if an organization like Gallarhorn gets formed, which is a little more than a military dictatorship, this clearly was a bad conflict across the Earth sphere.
And that mobile armor fight, by the way, that you mentioned was just glorious from the beginning to the end. When they first see it wake up in the desert on Mars, it was super cool when it like shot the beam weapon to the sky, and it sort of swept the beam across, and I think it hit the dirt or whatever, and this sort of dragon-looking bird mobile armor comes out, and you're just like, oh,
yeah,
it's on now. and I believe that was maybe the first beam weapon we saw in the series.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I was about to say there's some other weapons that we see later on, but
yeah, well.
Now that I think about it, they're not quite beams.
No, yeah.
No.
So I think that made it more impactful. And then plus, when that mobile armor showed up, you knew right away it was going to kick the crap out of Kujan, which he was really due for an ass kicking.
Yeah, him and pretty much every mobile suit that was there from Gjallarhorn.
Yeah. And then everyone takes their turn against the mobile armor, and it takes Mika kind of going all out in the Barbados. The fight ends because he sort of just rips the mobile armor apart. I mean, people tried to shoot it. People tried to attack it with their physical weapons, but he ends up sort of clubbing it a few times. He uses McGillis' friend's sword. He borrows it, and he smacks it in the face, and then he literally reaches under and just starts tearing its armor off and clawing his way into the components, which is quite brutal. I had to watch it a few times because it's a pretty quick fight, but very nicely animated. So
yeah, going off of that was such a good scene. And what else was a good scene in the series? Oh, where they get revenge on what was that guy's name?
Oh, Jazzly.
Yeah, Jazzly, Mr. Leopard Fur Coat. Yeah, man, that battle went south for him quick.
It did. It really did. Yeah, I would say that Teiwaz Jazzly section is probably the third section. I really enjoyed the whole Teiwaz angle throughout the series. I thought it was a really good change of pace from normal Gundam series, which is typically just military versus military in some form or another. And this was very much like military versus civilians versus like the mob, basically. So I thought that was really neat.
Yeah. We got to see a lot of character growth this season too. I felt like that was maybe the icing on the cake, so to speak. It was really good seeing a lot of the characters from season 1 start to have more responsibilities or just growing as characters, like Orga. In some ways, I felt like he was my favorite character this season just because of the growth he had to go through to really start dealing with, all the political intrigue and all the military affairs at such a high level. Spoiler alert. It was really shocking to see at the conclusion of the story that Orga did not make it. I was really surprised there. Man, that came out of nowhere.
I felt like I didn't know how he was going to go out, but I did feel like he was going to die at the end because he had made so many reckless decisions that had worked out. I knew that it was just a matter of time before one of them didn't.
Yeah, he was McGillis' puppet. I mean, I know he liked to pretend he was Mr. Big Brother for Tekkadan, but ultimately, like almost everybody McGillis gets near, he was McGillis' puppet.
Yeah, and then it turns out when McGillis doesn't actually have a real plan, things don't work out if you were on his side.
In his defense, going up against Rostel Alien might not have been the wisest idea.
Probably not.
I'm not sure if he was counting on Rostel to be at like the base during the coup, or he just thought Rostel would maybe stay in the background or something, or let the coup happen. But oh boy, sometimes you come across somebody in life you should not have like attracted their attention.
Yeah, Rostel is not someone you want to be on their bad side. So that Gjallarhorn coup is sort of the final arc of the series, and this is where McGillis puts his grand scheme into motion. I gotta say the space battle with Tekkadan and Arianrod and McGillis' Gjallarhorn, that to me was sort of the climax of the series, but I felt like it happened maybe 3 episodes too soon, because then after that they went to Mars and basically everybody died. Like you said, the Gjallarhorn coup is kind of where it all falls apart for Orga, right? He allied himself with McGillis, who up to this point in the series has been the unmatched mastermind until you pit him against Rostel Alien, and then McGillis kind of just, his balloon was popped and his plan did not work out. His plan, if I take a high level view, if I look back at McGillis' plan, it essentially was basically, I'm going to steal Gundam Bale and everyone will obey me.
I'll give him a little bit more credit than that. He was definitely counting on Mars, the Mars branch of Gjallarhorn for support. It didn't seem like he had much support on Earth because I assume Arian Rod really locked that down.
The 7 stars on Earth sort of just, they didn't go against him, but they declined to help him, so they stayed neutral. So he did not anticipate that.
Plus, he arrested like a ton of their people at like that one council meeting, right?
Right, yeah.
Almost everyone at that meeting got arrested.
He didn't do them any favors, that's for sure.
Right. So, as we've said, I think in the last episode about Iron Blooded Orphans, this is a very smaller scope of a story. So it really looked like there are only a handful of fleets in the Earth sphere. This isn't UC where there's, dozens, maybe possibly, 100 different fleets flowing around doing combat and stuff. There was pretty much 2 fleets at the climax of this series. There was the Mars fleet, the Rebel fleet that backed up McGillis, and then Arian Rod. That was it. But it was such a well done battle, I felt, even though the scale was smaller. It was really, really interesting to watch. And I enjoyed the intrigue and watching Ristal really manipulate the situation to his advantage and defeat McGillis. So I really like that. As far as it ending or climaxing a little early, I kind of agree with that. Yeah, to an extent. It felt like, if you remember Lord of the Rings, like they have the big, battle at Mordor or whatever at the end and destroy the ring. And then like 25 minutes of them like going at, the Shire and like Minas Tirith and all that. And they like crown Aragorn and all that. This kind of felt like that, where like we had this huge battle, and then now that I think about it, you're right, Brian. We had this huge fleet battle where like all the ships get destroyed and they have to evacuate to Mars, and then we get them surrounded at Mars, and it's just a shootout. It's a turkey shoot. They just murder. Yeah, they just kill all the main characters pretty much, and the secondary characters escape.
Yeah, and I don't think we can't understate how great that fleet battle was, in terms of not necessarily scale, like you said, but just the way it was done, where Tekkadan's second ship, the Hotarubi, however you say it, it was disabled, and the Gundam Floros, Shino's mobile suit was damaged, so they had one shot to take out Rustal, and they loaded the damaged Gundam Floros onto it with Shino going on a suicide mission, and they launched the Hotarubi at the Arian Rod fleet, and he got so close, and they blew open the side, and he was in his Super Galaxy Cannon mode, ready to fire the Dansleaf at Rustal, and he got the shot off, but that freaking Juliet just knocked it just a little bit, and the shot missed, and man, I was so pissed. Like, I could not believe it. That would have been, I'm not saying that the main characters all had to survive, but to me, that shot should have hit, and that would have been the perfect ending to the series. Like, I was just so disappointed that shot didn't hit.
I mean, since the moment like Rustal shows up, he kind of takes control of the situation. But I think that's the only time we see him kind of panic, because he like sees how close it shot to his bridge.
Oh yeah, he gasps when his bridge was hit, and I was so hoping like that somehow that shot would come back to matter later on in the next 3 or 4 episodes, where like maybe he thought he had won, but then they probably hadn't repaired the hole where the shot did hit, and maybe something could get in or something would happen and his ship would blow up. But no, oh man,
his bridge decompresses.
Yeah. That was so deflating for me as a viewer.
Sadly, no. But I must say the Danesleaf massacre was glorious. I really like seeing it happen. But the one in space against the Rebel fleet, against McGillis's fleet, was pretty awesome, Yeah.
Man, can we call that a super weapon?
Well, we have to, I guess. I mean, even for Gallahorn, it was kind of taboo to touch. It'd be the equivalent of their using nukes, right? For our world.
I mean, I think within the context of the series, that is clearly the best.
You don't use it. Yeah, you don't use it, and they had to fabricate Tekkadan using it before they could even use it. Yeah.
Oh man. And then with respect to the ending, look, I know Gundam is known for killing people. I mean, the creator of Gundam, his nickname is Kill 'Em All, Tomino. But man, they really killed pretty much everyone who mattered.
Yeah, you know who I was surprised died much earlier on? Naze.
Oh yeah.
He almost feels like a character pulled from Cowboy Bebop or something.
He does, yeah.
To our unknown fans, Cowboy Bebop's this anime that came out in like the late 90s, early 2000s. It's very popular. Check it out. It's underrated. But anyways, Naze, I felt he shouldn't have died then almost. It would have been better to see him die later on. But then again, maybe his death kind of showed that this series isn't going to end how you think it is. The heroes aren't going to high five at the end as the enemy flag gets lowered,
Yeah, I never felt that there was a high five scene coming in this show, but I didn't think the decimation would quite be as complete as it was. He died at what, Remy, the halfway point of the series
Pretty
or so?
Pretty much, yeah. As the situation deteriorated.
Yeah. I mean, his death really made you hate Rustal's brand of Galahorn, I guess, because it was basically Kujan versus Naze or Naze. And if I remember right, Naze was trying to surrender, but Kujan just wouldn't answer the phone so that he could have an excuse for just killing him. But that battle was great, too, with Amida, Naze's wife or whatever, one of his wives.
Yeah, one of his, the harem.
Yeah, she shot Kujan's bridge from like super far away, which was super badass. Really good way for her to go out. But yeah, super sad. Yeah. So yeah, should we talk about the body count? Like, let's see, who can we count who died? Right. So Mika died.
We have to elaborate on that because this is maybe one of the only times a Gundam pilot gets killed in the series. Before the end of the series, not even like dies like right before the credits, but he died like the final episode near the start of the episode, I think, or the middle point.
Akihiro died. Orga died. Shino died. Hush died.
Yeah.
Of all people. Naze and Amida died. Laughter died. Oh man, don't even get me started on Laughter. Jazly died. McGillis died. Kujan died. Those were like almost all of the major characters from this season. I think I counted at least 10 just now, maybe 11. And they were all dead.
I really liked that about this season, though. It was very, I wouldn't say realistic, but heavy. This was a heavier Gundam season than a lot of other Gundam seasons. It might be the opposite of like Gundam Build Fighters or something like that. I like that about this season. It was so self-contained that they could make these decisions. There's no need for us to have all these characters live on, and then we see them in the next war where they fight some new organization with villainous looking mobile suits. Yeah, Mikazuki's death.
I mean, I like when main characters die, don't get me wrong, but I think there's a limit of how many you should kill, and I think the series may have passed it for me. There's no one left to feel good about the ending for the most part. Like, to me, I don't know, it just felt a little hollow. Especially because Rustal basically won at the end, and we didn't really meet Rustal that much until season 2, and we don't even really have that much backstory from Rustal about like why he's doing what he's doing. I mean, we kind of learn about it through his interactions with Julieta, but him of all people winning was kind of weird. And then just they killed the entire cast, and I did feel like this series, maybe compared to a lot of the alternate timelines, I felt like there's a lot of potential there and for a sequel or something, but without pretty much all the characters. I mean, I guess there is some younger characters available now, but it just seemed like maybe a waste of potential.
Maybe. I'd say it was such a great setting. I'm not sure they can continue the story from here, since it looks like Rustal's very powerful, but also wise enough to see that there has to be change. So he's clearly made things more democratic and peaceful. So I'd be surprised if there's more wars.
Well, he brought about change, but only with himself in power.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, we got to take what we can get, all right? This is Galahorn, all right? You can't vote for your new fleet admiral.
Well, you can vote, but just as long as you vote Rustal.
Yeah, exactly. But definitely a prequel. Room for plenty of prequels. Sequels, not sure. Still, though, I really enjoyed the series. And, whoever writing team did this, please do another Gundam series. UC if you want. If you don't want to do UC because there's so much baggage, then move on to another alternate universe. But man, this was a fun ride. Very heavy, but a fun ride.
If these writers were to do another series, I would love to see them take a crack at maybe something like an original series later on in the UC, or maybe they don't have to play with so many established characters. They can feel free to kill more people. They just make their own characters and then kill them.
Exactly. Yeah. Why not?
So with that overview of the story, basically everybody died.
Everybody dies, but their deaths are not in vain because a vague form of democracy comes to Mars, and Galahorn pretty much scales back from being such a brutal dictatorship to be more of a, I guess, dictatorship open to democracy, transitioning slowly.
Yeah, it did say that they were like democratic at the end, but it just did acknowledge that Rustal was elected as the first person in power. Yeah. Wonder why, but
the guy with like the only operational fleet with super weapons is elected to lead Earth.
Right. So I mean, in a way, Rustal accomplished McGillis's goal
Yeah,
for
right.
him. So that's kind of interesting. And I guess the other takeaway from the ending that was, like you said, it makes all their death not in vain, is that Gudelia did work to pass that act that banned, human debris.
Hey, I just realized something. Hang on. Let me know if you agree with me. Okay, so McGillis's whole plot for all the backstabbing and the tomfoolery and the intrigue was to launch a coup to seize power to make a democratic transition. At least so he says. Let's take him at face value. Rustal, having all this power, has to go through like a couple battles, one in space to put down the rebels, and then one on Mars to wipe out Tekkadan. He has to go through that to pretty much realize, you know what? Yeah, I guess we should transition to democracy. If McGillis just talked to Rustal for like, I don't know, maybe they had like a 6-hour conversation or like some type of debate, they maybe could have just agreed that, you know what? Yeah, we shouldn't transition to democracy.
I 100% agree with you. It seems like maybe there was just some miscommunication there. And what does that teach you, everybody? That you should communicate better with people.
Pretty much. This is like a case of like two branches of the government just not talking at all, and then just assuming the other one would be hostile to them or their ideas, when they probably could have just met and like hashed things out and realized they were more or less on the same page and everything would be okay. But
100% agree.
Yeah.
So with that overview, let's dive into all the different characters, because there's a lot to unpack here. So, you got Mika. So how do you feel about Mika now?
Okay. I thought Mika at the beginning of season 1 was going to be pretty much our blank slate kind of hero. And to an extent, I wouldn't say his personality is flat. He's stoic. He doesn't speak too much, I think. Doesn't seem like an emotional guy, really. He's along with you for the ride. He's the main character. I enjoyed him as a pilot. I thought it was a brave choice to kill him. All in all, I'd say, having watched both seasons, that he's probably near the top. Yeah, probably the top 5 of my favorite Gundam pilots, Gundam main characters, protagonists.
Well, I mean, you do hate most Gundam protagonists, so
Hang on.
There might be a low bar.
Listeners, hang on. Let me defend myself. I wouldn't say I hate the Gundam protagonists. I might not like the factions they fight for, like the Federation, but I don't hate the protagonists. All right, we'll stop right there. All right, Amuro is a very understandable character. Okay, he might be fighting Zeon, but at the same time, I can definitely understand being in a situation you don't want to be in, and you have to jump in a cockpit.
I mean, Mika, he definitely didn't have the most personality of, any of the Gundam protagonists, for sure. But, he was put through the paces in this series. Yeah. His body kept working less and less after using Barbatos too hard, basically. After the fight with the mobile armor, he basically has to stay hooked up to Barbatos to walk. So that's pretty depressing. And yeah, I mean, he didn't get a happy ending. I mean, even when he died, when he was passing out, I think he noticed that his blood was getting on the bracelet that Atra had made for him, and he wondered if Gudelia would be able to help him clean it later / explain why he got it dirty. That was just so sad that he just had no concept of what had happened to him and that he was dying. So, but he did have that cool moment at the end where he kind of stepped up in place of Orga and gave the speech to Tekkadan. It wasn't a long speech, but that was kind of the finality of Mika's character, right?
His Girin moment.
Yes.
He was like, you know what? Orga's dead. It's up to me to do the speech. The last Tekkadan speech before we all die or go on our ways. But he had a kid. He had a kid at the end.
He did.
Yeah, interesting. With Atra, right? So
he did. Yeah, we'll get to the kid and when we get to Atra, maybe something I found out maybe you're not aware of. Yeah.
Rest in peace. You were an interesting character. Pretty much got to see the world of Gundam from a child slave soldier.
All right, Isaac, your favorite Orga, also known as the King of Mars, or
the King of Mars. Okay.
The hopeful King of Mars.
Man, Orga is like a case example of like, I guess even really the best and most caring people can be seduced by the lust for power. He thought he'd be the head of the Mars army or whatever and control Mars under McGillis's, new perfect Gallahorn, but 'twas not to be. I'd say had he the political acumen to approach other parts of Gallahorn, like Rustall maybe, even directly, he could have maybe turned on McGillis and said, hey, this guy's plotting a coup. And then, I don't know, maybe there's an alternate timeline in where Tekkadan is named the Mars branch of Gallahorn. We see Organ in uniform, because Gallahorn is very much like that, right? You clearly can backstab each other and, you get rewarded or severely punished depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
I loved how Orga, we really got to see him reach his peak as, the head of Tekkadan and really this major player, but still his knowledge or grasp of the situation wasn't enough. But definitely one of my favorite characters. His death was pretty shocking the way it happened. Yeah, I liked it. I'd say he was a co-protagonist.
Yeah, I agree. He was definitely a co-protagonist. And I really enjoyed how much his character grew this season. Right when you start the season, it's clear that he has matured a little bit. He's much more of a mob boss in this season than he was in the last one. I mean, he
dresses.
Yeah, he wears like the coat over his suit, with a loose tie.
Yeah.
And he's having to deal with like the daily struggle of an organization, like finances and personnel decisions. Who do I send to Earth? Who do I keep on Mars? And you know what? He went out like a mob boss too, getting assassinated by a random hit put out on him. So while it was sudden, I think it really fit the character that he had become.
I'll add one critique to his plot. I felt like him being killed by Nobles's goons, that I wouldn't say it came out of left field, but he should have had a different kind of death, I felt. Like, I would have understood it more if it was like maybe Gallahorn assassins or something, or a hit team sent by Rustall. But Nobles's goons, Nobles was too shadowy to really have earned that kill, I feel.
That's probably fair. Do I think it's the best death in the world? No. Does it fit the situation? I kind of think it does. I always thought that he would go out on some sort of suicide, piloting the ship into something.
Yeah, that seems more style.
But it didn't go that way. I don't know. To me, all of season 2, I got the sense that, like, unlike season 1, where most of his reckless decisions worked out, in season 2, most of his decisions didn't work out, and they sort of just snowballed into his ultimate demise. He placed far too much trust into McGillis.
Yeah.
And so, do you agree then? Did he let the King of Mars title get to his head?
I'd say so. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Because he started out in season 1 wanting essentially just safety for Tekkadan, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll earn some money doing some jobs, but, as long as everybody has food and a place to sleep, he's doing his job. He feels good about himself. Wanting to be like supreme military force on Mars, that's so much above what Tekkadan started at, and probably what Tekkadan could even be. Even if McGillis pulled off his plan, even in whatever McGillis Gallahorn version he creates, come on, Tekkadan running Mars? There's no way. We know they'd be underneath whatever Gallahorn goons McGillis put in control that were loyal to him.
To do something of that scale, he would need more people anyway. Like, he'd have to hire
Teiwaz.
Yeah, he'd have to hire 10 times, 20 times the amount of people that he has in Tekkadan right now. So those new people wouldn't even be Tekkadan. They would just be people that Tekkadan hired. So I agree. It's pie in the sky dreams on Orga's half. He did have 2 really good character moments that I wanted to point out. Like, towards the end, when he's kind of done with trusting McGillis, McGillis says, "Oh, we can still win. There'll be some casualties," and Orga punches him in the face. It says any casualty is family to us at Tekkadan, so you can't take any casualty lightly. So I thought that was good. That was in character. And then I think one of the biggest decisions he faced in season 2 was the decision to turn his back on Teiwaz and attack Jasley. That was a big decision. After Jasley killed Laughter, all of Tekkadan looked at him and pressured him into making that call of, we have to kill Jasley now. And he tells Mika to go all the way and crush them to the last bit. That was his full turn into independent Orga.
Something I really liked too was there's a point, kind of like what you mentioned, where he realizes how bad the situation is. He's back on Mars, this is near the end of the series, and there's nothing to do. He already played his hand with McGillis, and even if he wanted to go back, there's nothing to do. You can't really surrender to Gallahorn at that point. They're not even going to take the surrender. They need to destroy Tekkadan as an example. And It must have been such a frustrating situation to realize you did something wrong, you can't undo it, and the punishment and repercussions are still coming.
Yep. And I think
So,
he even found
yeah.
out like what time they were coming, right?
Yeah.
Even though-
Rostal told them like we're gonna bombard you if you don't surrender. All in all, I really liked Orga's arc, fall, demise. It was really fun to watch. Yeah,
It's a ride for sure. Yeah, I think he was the best developed character of the whole series.
definitely the most complex. Yeah, I liked it. Rest in peace, Orga. You had led a good fight, but boy, this was a whole nother ball game. You couldn't handle it.
How about Akihiro, our pal Akihiro,
Akihiro.
our fan favorite?
I'll go a little bit further. I'm gonna put him up for best death because he kills our longtime hated enemy, Yak Kujin, in the most delightful way. I must say.
What would you call those? Like pliers? Like
This-
Gundam pliers?
They're not scissors. The Akihiro Crunch. We'll go with that. from General Mills.
His pair of
Loaded
crunchers.
vitamins for a complete breakfast. Akihiro Crunch.
His story just ended up being tragedy after tragedy, right? Last season we saw
Yeah.
him lose his little brother.
Of course.
This
after
season-
finding him.
Yes,
After finding
yes.
him. After searching for, I guess, half his life.
You're right. So we should say that we saw him lose his brother as a child, find his brother, and then watch his brother get killed. This season, we saw him lose Aston, who was essentially like his sort of adopted little brother. He came from the same human debris ship, I think, as Akihiro. And then he lost Laughter when Jazzly put the hit out on her, which I actually thought that was one of the better romances in the series. I thought that one could actually go somewhere. It seemed like they were slowly developing it. I didn't feel like it was super forced. And then he just couldn't survive the Dansleaf bombardment at the end. I think that dude had so much shrapnel in him in the end that it just looked so painful. You're right. The only good thing that happened was he was able to kill Kujon at the very end.
Pretty much, and in the most amazing way, crushing him slowly to death. You get to see Iok in his final moments still suffering, and then he's finally dead. But yeah, Akihiro was, despite being freed at the start of the series, he died the way human debris dies, in combat, and very painfully and without joy or happiness. Very, very tragic.
Yeah, just terrible. Poor Akihiro.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Akihiro. You mobile suit cruncher.
How about Eugene? So he was like the deputy boss. He was the blonde guy. I don't know if you remember Eugene.
Yeah, Eugene. You would complain a lot at the beginning of the series, right? So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
so. But he's actually very sharp. Eugene lived, correct? There's
He
a lot
did.
of characters. I apologize to the audience. There's a lot of characters to keep track of. Yes.
You are
okay.
correct. He is one of the few that survived.
I wouldn't say I remember him having much of an arc, but I'm glad he survived just because he was mostly a good guy. You know, he wasn't so much a fighter on the battlefield, but more able to give advice and some brains to discussions. So
Yeah, and he was always using the Alaya Vinyana system on the ship. He was the one piloting the ship.
there you go. Yeah. So
I felt like he was the most level-headed.
yeah.
There was that one scene, I think, towards the end of this season where Orga was moping about something, and Eugene basically told him to shut up and go do his job and like inspire everybody or give the order or whatever. I thought that was good. That's how much Eugene has grown over the series, so he knows what he's doing now. And if there is a Tekkadan left after this, I would imagine that Eugene is in charge of it.
There isn't, but yes, if there was, he would be the one that would organize a reunion every year.
Yeah. Or I mean, I guess they all like erase their names and stuff, so they won't call themselves Tekkadan. But if they made another organization, I assume that he is the leader.
Yeah, McMurdo, I'm sure invites them over once a year, and they have cannoli, and there's framed pictures of everybody that passed away, and they talk about it.
They exchange Christmas cards.
Exactly. Yeah.
How about Shino?
Shino. Actually, his death was pretty awesome too. Oh, I think he beats Akihiro on scope, but what Akihiro gets in points is killing Eok.
Yeah.
Shino, it was sad to see him go because he was such a positive guy. Orgaz gets pretty negative, so does Akihiro sometimes. Mikazuki. But yeah, Shino always seemed pretty upbeat despite the situation. Sad to see him die, but man, it was quite the epic death.
Yeah.
Quite the plot to try to hit that bridge.
Yeah, and like I already said, to me that was the climax of the series. That was the most Tekkadan tactic to end the series that you could have. And
Well,
I was
hang on, Brian. There was like a few episodes after that. So you thought they would kill Rustal by destroying the bridge of his ship, and then the next 3 episodes would be them like what, mopping up Gallarhorn or
oh well, no, that's what I'm
establishing the
saying.
new
I
government?
I
Or
feel like the series climax like 3 or 4 episodes too early.
oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. But yeah, I had a feeling that this series was going to end differently just because of how different things had been going.
Yeah.
Almost no time in colonies, very small fleets, very small battles. Yeah, and then as soon as they missed Rustal's ship, I knew, oh, these guys are screwed.
Yeah.
There's no way to cover.
I was just most upset, I think, at his death out of all of them. I felt like he had done so much for Tekkadan. He put it all on the line. I felt like he deserved for that shot to hit. And so, yeah, that one hurt. Shino's death really hurt. But so it goes. Yeah, he was a cool guy. And he always insisted on painting his mobile suits that obnoxious pink.
Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, listeners, that a lot of the time in giant robot shows or even Gundam, we see pink a lot because that's actually like a young samurai color, because it's the same color of cherry blossoms. So I think Japanese anime, the artist kind of transported that color over. That's the warrior's color, a young brave warrior's color. It's not, it doesn't necessarily have the connotations that we have here in the West or the United States, where that's a girl's color, feminine color, whatever.
Got it. That makes sense.
Nowadays a millennial color, I guess, but whatever.
Rest in peace, Shino.
Oh, he was mourned by what's his name?
Oh yeah, I had to look it up because they don't actually say his name a whole lot. His name is
Blondie Mechanic.
Yeah, Blondie Mechanic. Blondie Mechanic had a huge crush on Shino. Yamagi.
Yamagi, that's his name. Yeah, I think that's the first time we've seen this in Gundam, so very progressive.
I think so, yeah. I guess they didn't do it like outright, right?
It was a very subtle workplace romance, Brian. They didn't need HR catching onto it and causing problems, so they stayed very low key.
Yeah, you're right. This is pretty progressive for Gundam. I don't think that's been in any other show to my knowledge.
I'd be surprised. If it was, it would be something like only the writers maybe, or like, yeah, the team would know. They're like, oh yeah, we put this line in here because it means so-and-so. But this was much more explicit, so very nice to see in 2020. Hope we get to see more of that.
Yep, makes sense. Yeah. It's the future, right?
Exactly, yeah.
How about Takaki? He was the guy who stayed on Earth.
Didn't he essentially become like office help?
Yeah, he became like a secretary to the head of Arbrow's replacement. Looking at the big picture, he probably made the right decision to stay on Earth instead of going back with Tekkadan to Mars, because he has his kid sister that he has to take care of. And basically everybody else died. So if he had gone with Tekkadan, he probably would have died too, and his sister would be all alone. He has the opposite fate as Biscuit, right? Like Biscuit tried to do everything so that his sisters could live a good life, and he died. So Taki took the opposite path, and guess what? He lived. Good on you, Taki.
He has a bright career ahead of him in Arbrow.
As Isaac said, office help.
That's how you get on the inside track.
you can live a really exciting life with Tekkadan and die at whatever they were all 16, 17, 18, or you can live a really long time as a boring office worker.
Yeah, but you know what? You got to live on Earth, and it's not that bad.
You know what the best perk is?
Not being shot by a Danesley. Not being killed from orbit.
That is 100% correct. You nailed it.
Got it.
How about Hush? Hush was sort of, I'll say, Mika's intern, and I don't know, he died on Mars in the last battle, which was kind of weird to me. I felt like they started out with maybe a bigger plan for Hush, and then either they just didn't get to it or they forgot about it until they had to kill him at the end. I don't know. What did you think?
Ultimately, I'd say he was one of the more, maybe not forgettable, but less important characters. His death didn't have as much impact as everybody else's. I don't even remember exactly how he died. Was he just buying them time? Was he on Team Buy Time?
He was on Team Buy Time, yeah.
Okay. I vaguely remember now. I don't have much to say about Hush because, like his name, there's not much to say.
It was a pretty sad death. The whole time he had been trying to live up to Mika, without having the Alaya Vignana system. And at the end, he gets, mortally wounded. And Mika actually comes and rescues him. And he says, no, Mika, leave this part to me. I'll handle it. Don't worry about it. And Mika understands that he's dying, and he says, okay, hush, I'm relying on you. And then he flies away to go take a dance leaf to the chest or whatever. But yeah, so super sad for Hush. He didn't really meet his goals in life. Yet another tragedy. So rest in peace, Hush. You gave it your all.
You will not be missed.
So cool.
On behalf of Gallahorn, I must say that you will not be missed.
Oh man.
We've noticed all of our enemies die, but we noticed the least.
How about Ride?
Okay, little ginger boy. He had to live. Because he's just too young.
I enjoyed Ride. Like you said, he did live, so he was one of the few people who lived. He had two sort of great moments in season 2. One was a really sad moment in the mobile armor fight. He puts himself between the agricultural center and the mobile armor, and the beam weapon hits him, but it doesn't destroy him because his suit has the nanolaminate armor, and so it just like spreads off of his suit and just fries the town behind him due to like all the ricocheting. Like, oh, it was so sad. And he's in his suit, thinking I'm gonna die because the beam hits him. But he's not dead, and instead he looks back, and the whole town is just incinerated. So that was the poor Ride. He gave it his all, but it just didn't work.
Bittersweet survival.
And then he had one of the best moments in the last episode. He was the one, he went full Mark Wahlberg from The Departed, and he went and assassinated Nobliss as revenge for Nobliss putting the hit out on Orga.
Got him right in the toilet.
He did.
The man can't sit in peace. He's got to get shot 4 times in the face.
Yep. Nobliss got what was coming to him. So I give him credit for that. He finished Tekkadan's business, right?
Hang on. Do you think all of Tekkadan knew that was going to go down? Or did Ride just do it on his own?
Well, he didn't go there by himself. If I remember right, he had a few other Tekkadan people with him. I mean, not that there are really that many senior members left of Tekkadan, but I would imagine that at least Eugene knows.
Everybody went along with it, probably.
How about Atra?
Atra, wow. You know what? I don't think she really had too much of an arc except being constantly fearful of Mikazuki's life. But it was interesting to see. This might be the first time we see like a child born from a Gundam pilot within the same series.
I think that's right. I can't remember. I can't think of another one.
I'm surprised it was her too. I thought it would be Kudelia. I thought Atra would be like the little sister of, Tekkadan, but the fact that she ends up being the mother of Mika's offspring, that was a little shocking to me.
You thought she was the Frau Bo when she was actually the Sayla.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm surprised. I was like, wow, you're good for more than just cooking. Yeah. I guess it looks like Mikazuki likes to work out in the kitchen too, because it looks like he put a bun in the oven.
Well, I don't think he did it in the kitchen. I think they had to do it in Barbatos because that was the only way he could move at the end of the series. So
it's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't use my left arm. You're gonna have to help me out.
So this is what I was talking about earlier. So at the very end of the series, we see, like you said, Atra with her kid, with Mikazuki, that was obviously conceived before he died. The kid's name is Akatsuki August Mixtra, which is Atra's last name. Her name is Atra Mixtra. Okay. And then the last name is Bernstein because according to there was some event or some Q&A thing in 2017 where it was officially confirmed that Atra and Kudelia married post-show. They just got married. What? Yep. So they're raising the kid together.
Okay. But they're never together. I mean, we see Kudelia. Doesn't she leave Earth and then go back to Mars? Atra's on Mars at the end, but I don't know. I don't know. It seemed like Kudelia was on Earth much longer than you would have assumed. I thought she was there for years, maybe doing whatever political. Because, I mean, a lot of time has passed. We see Ride grow up. So I assume she was on Earth doing a lot of political work with Arbrow and, being there for Mars. But, that's very progressive. I had no idea she and Atra would have married.
Yeah. So she kept her promise to Atra by helping raise Mika's kid.
They must have spent a lot of time together after the show because I really don't remember them spending a ton of time together during the show. maybe they had their few panic moments, or I remember at the beginning when Atra shows up, they do spend a lot of time cooking. But
Yeah.
aside from that, I never got any feelings of, romantic interest between them. I don't think that was conveyed very much. Do you?
Yeah, I wouldn't have seen it between them. I mean, they definitely had that whole love triangle thing going with
Yeah.
Mika. But I would say the commonality was Mika, not necessarily each other, I guess. But I mean, whatever works for people, that's fine.
Maybe they agreed that they both wanted to care for him. We made a promise to Mikazuki. We have to go through with this. Might as well, I know you're a good cook. I have a stable job in politics. There's no way this can't work out.
It just works.
We both love Mikazuki and we both love his son. So we'll make this work somehow and we'll all live happily ever after.
We'll get it done.
But very progressive. Next time, I hope they show romance, from the get-go. No need to kind of shoehorn it in when you have to read about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very much like a Dumbledore is gay situation, right? Where after the series is over, you announce it on Twitter, and it's kind of like, well, okay. Yeah. But I mean, it's like, why didn't you put it in the book then? But
we're happy to see it, but it could have been done better.
Yeah. But I guess theoretically, if there is ever a sequel in the future that focuses on Akatsuki, the kid, and assuming that these two are Atra and Kudelia are still alive, maybe we would see that relationship at some point.
Hopefully. You know what's going to happen, though, right? Don't you, Brian? Akatsuki, he's going to unearth a new Gundam. But unfortunately, that's going to trigger all the mobile armors in the Earth sphere to awaken. And now he has to lead a group of Gundams to fight the mobile armors.
Hey, I would watch it.
He's going to lead Galahorn. Galahorn's going to be excavating Gundams because they're losing the war. It's going to be awesome.
I would watch it. I'll be there. Sign me up.
Old Rastal's going to be there. He's probably going to be in a wheelchair. He's going to give them advice from the bridge.
He'll have Degwin glasses on.
Probably, yeah. He's got the cane.
Yeah. Last Tekkadan person before we move on to Kudelia. Maribit Stapleton, a.k.a. Iron Nina Purpleton. Her dating the mechanic was hilarious.
Yeah, that felt very 0083 in a way.
Yeah.
If anyone earned it, it was him, because he needs all the help he can get.
I don't know. I don't have much to say about Maribit, but she lived, so that's something. She's on the short list of Tekkadan survivors.
I almost feel like Maribit and Kudelia, you could have had one character sort of being the competent female lead that could have been able to deal with the political intrigue or the business. I feel like having both of them kind of took away time from the other one.
That's probably fair. Yeah. So with that, how about Kudelia?
It was interesting seeing her come back, but now that this was essentially, the McGill's plot season, she was almost unnecessary to the story, I think. She did her little escort mission to go to Earth and then plead on behalf of Mars autonomy, but now she was just almost another politician in the background.
I mean, really, she didn't do much this season. She was kind of sidelined almost the whole time. She is helping raise Mika's kid at the end, but beyond a few appearances in the beginning, regretting that she has to stay on the farm and she can't go anywhere. She played into it a little bit at the end, connecting Tekkadan to see if they could get the Arbrow guy to erase their identities. But she really didn't have a major presence in the second season at all, which is kind of jarring considering that she was the main goal in the first season.
Right. I feel like that could have also had a simple fix too, with McGillis wanting to incorporate her into the plot, into his whole revolution, by essentially almost offering her and Orga sort of co-leadership and, I don't know, maybe making some type of tension between them. Not tension, but I don't know, romantic interest or something. But anyways, pretty much saying, whereas Orga would be king of Mars, under my revolution, you will be queen of Mars. So that could have definitely brought her more into the plot and having her be involved in the political intrigue and stuff, and hopefully ultimately being, along every battle, but escaping and being one of the survivors at the end, I thought. So it could have been handled differently, I thought.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that decision was made. I mean, maybe was fan reaction maybe not great? Did people not like Kudelia? Maybe they diminished her role a bit. I'm not sure.
Yeah, more could have been done with her in maybe different ways than we saw in season 1. She doesn't have to be a damsel in distress, but ultimately it wasn't a big issue for the season.
Yeah. I mean, she did meet one of her goals at the end. She signed the ban on human debris, so that was nice.
Yeah, and Mars autonomy, right, from Rastal.
Yep. Okay, let's go to Teiwaz before we get to the big fishes at Gallarhorn. Your pal Cannoli McMurdo.
Cannoli Gundam.
Yeah. Oh man.
Cannoli funnels.
They don't shoot, they spray.
Good luck using your sensors now with the Minovsky cream.
Do we have any more thoughts on McMurdo this season, or?
He tried to survive and avoid getting all of Teiwaz crushed by Gallarhorn. So his actions really made sense. You know, there wasn't a lot he could do after a certain point because it was just Horn executing Tekkadan. But it was good to see him back again, and I'm glad he made it through and survived.
How about your pals Naze and his wife Amida?
Season 1, I wasn't a fan of the whole harem ship because I feel like it's just such a pointless fan servicey thing. You know, walking into this whole season, I've had my expectations blown away because I also thought the pilots were all just going to be fan service, but that ended up not being true. I'll say the same thing about Naze and Amida. You know, you end up really rooting for them as the series went on, and you kind of feel their loss when they're killed ultimately. They had less to gain than almost anybody else, but they die earlier than almost every other character. They weren't in it to be, you know, lords of Mars or, you know, gain huge amounts of power and wealth. Like Tekkadan was their ally, so what if, I mean, maybe they would have profited a bit if Tekkadan got to power, but they really didn't have a dog in the fight and they ended up dying. It was pretty tragic, and I guess a sign of things to come that depending on who you're friends with and the situations they get into, you could get pulled in and things could go pretty bad for you too.
Yeah, I agree. They got a real raw deal in terms of their fate. I mean, getting shot with the first volley of Dan's leaves, just not a good way to go out, but they at least went out like badasses. I mean, I think they had a good exit.
Also, Naze, one of the best dressers in the series.
Sure. He's a snazzy dresser.
Yeah. Not many men can pull off a hat like that, sir, but you did it astonishing well. You win our Colony Drop trophy for the best dressed man of Iron Blooded Orphans. Congratulations, sir.
If we ever do like a fashion episode, I'm sure we'll bring back Naze. For sure.
We're absolutely doing a fashion episode. Comment below if you want one. Comment below if you don't want one. But guess what? It's happening anyways.
So just give your suggestions now. Just jump to the suggestions.
Yep, do it. Best Gundam fashion.
And, you know, Amida really showed how skilled of a pilot she was. I mean, maybe if she had fought in more battles, maybe Tekkadan could have done a little better. Like if they had her at the end. She held off Julieta pretty much the whole time in an inferior suit. I wish we could have got her a Gundam. Yeah,
I mean, there's no reason why not, right? I don't think we had a single woman pilot a Gundam this series, despite having multiple female pilots. Come on, Sunrise, what's going on over there?
Yep, it's like they went almost there, but not all the way.
Yeah, just put one of them in a Gundam. It's not going to be the end of the world. All right, it'll be really interesting.
The next person on Teiwaz is Laughter. And man, this death hit me like a bag of bricks. I think this is my number 2 most painful in this season after Shino. She got taken out by Jazly via Hitman while she was buying a teddy bear for Akihiro. And that teddy bear looked exactly like Akihiro. It had those huge eyebrows. Oh man, I was so sad.
Yeah. Laughter's death was almost brutal because of how, I guess, normal it was. You know, it's a death that could happen in our world. A shooting that happens in a store. She didn't die on the battlefield. She definitely didn't deserve to die or do anything worth dying for. It was just very tragic, I'd say. Possibly the most tragic death in the series because she was a total innocent, really. Yeah.
Agree. Yeah, she was used by someone else. So someone on TV tropes is probably really upset.
Yeah, her and Akihiro. She was essentially the last happiness Akihiro could have had. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the rest of his life going to be? Just piloting mobile suits and being terrible?
Yeah, I mean, that was like the bright
Not
hope.
being terrible. I apologize to listeners. What I meant was like piloting mobile suits and just earn money, go to combat, earn money, go into combat. Doesn't sound like a very joyful life. I don't think Akihiro would have enjoyed that very much for too much longer. He was missing something in his life, whether it was his brother or somebody else. But yeah, poor Laughter.
And she clearly liked Akihiro, so it's very sad to see her go.
He liked him a lot. I was rooting for them a lot. I'll root for any happiness for Akihiro. That poor guy.
Yeah, I was really hoping he would survive, but Maybe our expectations were way too high. Clearly, we were both hoping that both of them would not only survive but get together. And instead, not only did they never get together at all, but they both died.
Yeah, this series was such a surprise compared to, I guess, most of the tropes we're used to with Gundam series, that we weren't prepared at all and didn't see a lot of things coming. Comment below if you saw a lot of things coming. I'd be surprised. I'd call you a liar, but
yeah, I did not. Yeah, I agree. I did not see her death coming at all.
Poor teddy bear, covered in blood.
Yeah,
very sad.
Just terrible. Okay, how about probably the most hated man, Jazzly.
Jazzly, he was trouble from the beginning. He even dresses like a guy that's going to be trouble.
He does, yeah. With his obnoxious puffy cheetah coat.
Yeah, I really liked how in the end he ended up being such a cowardly sort of sniveling villain and really kind of begs for his life and realizes the situation's hopeless and what a mistake he made. I almost feel like, though, his actions were not impactful on the whole picture. Ultimately, the whole plot with McGillis really was going to go forward, whether or not Jazzly did anything. He killed some main characters, but other than that, Jazzly was very much the sub-boss of this season, but it was really good to watch him fight against them finally after all this animosity and ultimately lose. Even after reaching out to McMurdo, he still loses and then, tries to beg for his life or whatever. Tekkadan just takes him out on the ship.
Yeah, I think the only way his death could have been better was if Akihiro killed him instead of Mika.
Yeah, painfully or in person or something. But yeah, I was glad to see him die, and he had no redeeming qualities.
Yeah. Okay, so on to Gallarhorn. And we're going to cut it there for this episode. Tune in next time for the conclusion to our Iron Blooded Orphans Season 2 review, where we discuss the characters of Gallarhorn, the mobile suits, and our overall thoughts on the series. Until next time, keep those Minovsky reactors warm.